Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today is the day when I will show you the books that I don't want to have anymore. I'm saying goodbye to these. I don't know how many of them are around me. I didn't count yet, but some of them will be books that I tried to read and DNF'd, unfortunately. Some of them will be that I read and didn't like. Some of them I even didn't try, and there is a lot, so I think I will just start with the first one. Here we have a Norwegian book, Døden by Endre Lund Eriksen or Sigbjørn Lilleeng. It is a book that is called Death, and like you can guess from the title Death, it is a book about death. And I don't know if I read this book in a wrong time or what happened, but I didn't like it at all. It is completely in graphic form, but something with this book didn't click with me. I got anxiety after reading it. I was depressed. In one word, I was triggered, and I'm thinking that this book actually is for children, so if it affects the adult the way that it affected the adult, I can't even imagine how it could affect a child. At least my child would be terrified and wouldn't sleep after this book, so I don't want to have it. I think I gave this one 1 star only, so it's time for this one to just get away from my house. A controversial one. I read this one. I think I gave this one a 3 or 4 stars. I don't remember at the moment. At the moment that I read this book, I liked it, but it won't be the one that I would like to reread, that I would like to recommend to my friends, and maybe someone else will be interested to pick this one up. Maybe someone else will like it more than I did, so I think this will be leaving my house as well. Then we have this one. It is Aldri mer jojo slanker. It's a Norwegian book. I don't know if it is a Norwegian edition. Who is the author? Kari Sørli. Yeah, it is a Norwegian book, and it is about losing weight. I didn't bought this book. I got a package with books for free, and there were some questionable books in that package and one of those books was this one, and I didn't even try to read it, and I won't read it, so I'm saying goodbye to this one. Also, we have Rivaler og elskere by Nora Rabert. I don't remember the original title of this one, but so happened that I have 2 editions of this one, 2 Norwegian editions, and I don't need 2, so one will be leaving. Then we have Lithuanian book. It is Alčekas nors yra by Eva Tombak, and in this one we should have been talking about ghosts, and I'm a huge paranormal enthusiast. I love everything about poltergeist, ghosts, demons, you name it, I like it. I'm very fascinated by that stuff, so when I find books like this, I always give them a try, and I thought that it will be majority about ghost and ghost encounters, and there were some stories about that, but they were drowned in the stories about just using some drugs and going on a trip by those drugs. So I was surprised in a not that good way, and yeah, half of the book is just ramblings of a drugged mind, so definitely this book is not for me. Another one, controversial one, it is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. It is a very loved book in book community. I read it. I think I gave that one 3 stars maybe, but to be honest, I was so bored reading this book. From the first to the last page, I had to force myself to read this book. I didn't want to DNF it just because it was so loved, and I thought that maybe I will just change my mind reading it, but unfortunately it didn't happen. And yeah, I think someone else will definitely like it more than I did. Then we have a oldie one. It is Tūkstantmečio sapnas by Antonio Cabanas, and I have a Lithuanian edition, and it is a book about Egypt, I think, or something like that. I don't even remember because I read this book also long ago, and I think I liked it. I have a feeling that I liked it, but I don't want to reread it. It is quite a huge one, so I think I will try to sell it. Maybe someone else will be more interested, or maybe I will just try to reread it and keep it. So this one is actually on a question mark. Maybe I will keep it, maybe I will leave this one on the Unhaul pile. I still haven't decided yet, but yeah, this might be leaving my house. I have some controversial books here. Bubble by R.F. Kuang. Oh my god, how bored I was. And I think that you shouldn't like the characters in these books, but I didn't feel anything for them. I just wasn't interested. It was too long. It was just, yeah, it dragged too much. Nothing happened to the majority of the book, and only in the end we had some action. Even if it was a character-based book, those characters were very bland, and I just didn't care what will happen to them, so I just tried to read it physically. I then turned to audiobook, and if it wasn't for audiobook, I think I will just DNF that one. So unfortunately I didn't like it. Then we have Mary Blå by Unesbo. It is a crime book, a very popular Norwegian author, crime or thriller author, Unesbo. I have 2 editions of this book. I don't need to. I read this one. I think I gave that one 4 stars. I'm pretty sure that I liked it quite a lot. I'm still remembering majority of this book, so that's a good sign, because usually I just forgot the books that I read. I don't need 2 editions of this book. Then we have The Wicker King by K. Ankrum, and I didn't like it. I thought that I would like it. The format of this book is very interesting. You start light on the light pages, and slowly but surely you get darker and darker and darker, and it just turned into black pages. And it represents our main character. He turns from light side to the dark side. Mentally he is just getting down, and I thought that I will like it. I tabbed a few places, 2 in this book, only 2, and yeah, it just wasn't for me, unfortunately. Also, we have a book by David Leviathan, Hverdag, or Every Day. I tried to read it. I gave that one a fair chance, but as far as I remember, I think I DNF'd this one, so I don't even remember what this book is about. I don't need it anymore. Then we have this one. It's very old, you can say, romance, The Conqueror by Shari Anton. This one, and there will be a little bit more of those books in this pile. I also got in that huge package of free books that I've got. I'm not that very interested in few of those romances. I won't be reading them. It's an old book, you can see from all sides. And something with romances, I need to have a nice book. It's very strange, but I need to have a nice book in my hands to completely like the romance, and I don't think that I will be happy to hold this one in my hands and to read it. So yeah, I'm just giving this one away. Then we have There's Something About Christmas by Debbie Macomber. I tried to read this one actually quite recently. I read, I think, until maybe 40 or 50 pages of this book, and I just didn't want to continue anymore. I wasn't interested in the story. I didn't like any of the characters. From the beginning, the banter between those two main characters were very forced. The topics they talked about was very silly, and I don't understand why they bickered so much. Just not for me, this book. So this one will be leaving my house as well. Then we have Vega by Ellen Victoria Onstad. This is a dystopian young adult book. I also read this one recently. I think I gave that one 3 stars. I'm pretty sure that I gave that one 3 stars. But I was a little bit disappointed in the story. I hoped more of a Divergent or Hunger Games vibes, but it actually turned out to be just a very insta-lovey love triangle, and I was just disappointed with this book. Another of those old old school romances that I've got that will be leaving my house. I don't even know what this book is about, but I'm not interested to read it. Then we have book by Jonas Jonasson, Analfabeten som kunne regne. I tried to read other book by this author, and that book will also be in this pile here, but because I didn't like that book that much, I just lost all my interest to try and read this one. So I don't want to keep the book that I'm pretty sure I won't be reading. Then we have a Lithuanian book. It is non-fiction, Kaip užauginti žmogų by Aušra Kurienė, and this book is about raising a child. It is non-fiction, it is a advice book. It was very good. I had some good advices from this book when I was raising my child. I'm still raising my child, but it's more for raising baby's book, and he's no longer a baby, so I will just try to give this book to some. Then we have a Norwegian book by Bjørn Ausland, Det mørke hjertet. It is a graphic novel. I read it also quite recently. I think I gave that one 2 or 3 stars. I wasn't that interested in the things that happened in this book. I didn't like the art style in this book, and when I read graphic novels, I need to like the art style. Unfortunately, this one didn't click with me. Then we have a thriller by Unhaul. It is another very popular thriller crime author here in Norway, and it is this Marmit, something that are mine. I think I think that it is translated in English, but don't quote me on that. I listened that book on audio. I listened it, I finished it, and I forgot it. I think that I gave it maybe 3 stars. I just don't want to keep this book. I don't think that I will be rereading, and I have a little bit of a love-hate relationships with Anne Holt. Some of her books I like, some of the books I hated with all my heart, and this one just landed in the middle. Then we have 3 more of those old school romances that will be leaving my house. Once again, I don't know what those books are about. They are very old. I don't think that someone would like to buy books like these. I'm pretty sure they just will stay in the shelves for a long time. Not on my shelves. I will be donating them to maybe charity shop, and maybe someone will pick them up, hopefully. They are still readable, only I just don't want to have them. Then we have Mørkets Ar by John Connolly, Dark Hollow. I think that I read this book, and as far as I remember, I didn't like it. I think I DNF'd it. Don't quote me on that, but see, I don't even remember if I read it. So that's not a good sign for a book. So that one will be leaving my house as well. Another one of those romances that will be leaving my house. Then we have Flimmer by Arne Holt and Evan Holt, and I read this book last month. I gave this one 4 stars. I enjoyed it, I liked it, but I don't like this edition. I don't like those short books. They look quite strange on the bookshelves, and maybe one day I will buy another if I find it, because it's quite old. Maybe I will find another edition, and if I don't find that edition, that's fine as well. It wasn't that book that I just need to have. Then we have a cookbook by Chili Claus, and yeah, it is a book about all sorts of spicy peppers, chili peppers, and some of the recipes with those. I was interested to see some of his YouTube videos. Those are very funny. So when I saw this book, I wanted to see what it is about. I took it home, I checked it, and I don't want to have it anymore. So I bought it in a charity shop, so I will just return it, and maybe someone else will think that it is more useful for them than it is for me. That is the book that I was talking about by Jonas Jonasson, 100 år som klättrat ut genom vinduet och försvann. I tried to read this book. At first it seemed that it will be quite funny and interesting story, but there were some slurs that were used repeatedly. I thought I found that one for the first time, that I thought that maybe it will be just one time, but it wasn't. It just kept repeating, and it just felt icky a little bit. It's not that old of a book that authors should know not to use words like that, but for some reason it was used and it wasn't edited out of that book. So it was just strange. I lost all my interest in this story and in this author as well. So this book will be leaving my house as well. Then we have the book by Eric Bachman, and it's very strange for me because I usually love Eric Bachman books. And this one is Mormor hilser og sier unnskyld, and I have a Norwegian edition. I read this book also, I think, last month, and I liked it, but not as much as I liked other books by this author, and I just don't want to have it anymore. I didn't like it enough to have it at my house. Majority of the book I was just disappointed with the story, so I don't feel that I need this book. Then we have another book by Unhaul, President's Valk. I read it, this one. I gave that one, I think, 3 stars. It was okay-ish. It was definitely a political thriller. Nothing much happened in this book as far as I remember, and yeah, I'm just happy that I finished it. Then we have Giftige Hjerter by S.B. Hayes. It is translation from Poison Heart. It is a young adult book. I think I read it maybe 2 months ago, and it was okay as well. I definitely have read better young adult books. I'm happy that I finished. I'm happy that I gave this one a chance, but maybe someone else will love it more than I did. This one is a Norwegian book, Nede I himmelen by Tove Nielsen. I'm not interested in this book. This one was as well in that huge package that I've got of free books, and it just isn't for me. I'm pretty sure that I won't pick this book and I'm not even interested to picking this up. Then we have a very huge controversy here. I hated this book. I gave it 1 star, I think. I hated it with all my heart. It was just so stupid. I don't understand why people like it that much, and I didn't like it that much that I won't be picking any other this author books. Some of parts of this book just infuriated me of how stupid they were, and yeah, I just don't want to have it. And maybe someone else can have it. I can gift this book to someone if someone will have it, but I just don't need it anymore. Then we have another graphic novel. This is Zora by Judith Pignan. I read this one. I read it in 1 sitting. It's very short graphic novel. I liked the art style in this book. It's very colorful and whimsical and so on, but I wasn't that interested in the story to continue reading this series because it is a first book in the series. so this one will be leaving as well. Then we have a non-fiction book by Billy Bryson and Cool Historia om nästan allt, a short story about, how it is in English actually, a short history of nearly everything. I bought this one for my husband. He's not a reader, so he chose to listen that one, I think, on audio. I'm not sure that I will pick this one up. Even if I decide to read it, I think I will as well listen that one on audio. As also, it is a huge one, it takes a lot of place on the bookshelves. It's that format that I don't like. It is a short and little book. Then we have Obstacles by Christopher Michael Riordan. I've got this book, I think, on Goodreads, one of Goodreads giveaways when I was living in England, and it was more over 10 years ago. Jesus. But I tried it, I read it, and then unfortunately I think I gave that one star, and I just don't need it anymore. Then we have Domen by Hanna Kvammo. I think it is a Norwegian book, or maybe Swedish. I think it is Norwegian book. Also one of books that was in that huge package of free books that I've got, and I'm not interested in reading this one. Another romance that I will be saying goodbye to. Then we have a book by Unhaul that I hated. It's Demon and Död, the Demon's Death or something like that. I don't know if it is translated in English. I think it is. But I started it. I tried to force myself to read it all, but I just couldn't. And yeah, I think I hated it from the first pages. Then we have another graphic story, Herman by Herman Flesvig or Erlend Loe. It was a very cute book, interesting one. It is a book about, I think it is about autism and the spectrum of it. And yeah, it's very important read, and I read it, but because of the format, it just don't fit in my bookshelves the way I want to. And I know that a lot of people would like to read this one as well, so I will be donating this one to the charity shop. Then we have a book, Dig med helg by Kristin Gjelsvik. I almost whacked myself in the head with this one. It is signed by the author, and she is one of the most popular influencers, Norwegian influencers here in Norway. I bought this book, I don't know why, to be honest. I'm sitting and trying to understand what was in my head to buy this book. But I did, and I tried to read it, and it just wasn't for me. It is just, majority are pictures of a very, very unkept house. So maybe it should just give us some ease that it's okay to have days like this, but I don't understand what should happen that your house turned into mess like this. I don't know what was in my head when I bought this book, but I don't need it. Then we have also a book by a Norwegian author, Bjørg Torhalsdøtter. Du sterkere enn du tror. And this one is, I can't say that it is non-fiction, I can't say that it is fiction. It's just author thoughts. It should be, I think it is maybe non-fiction. Short ones with her illustrations. She's an illustrator. I have few of her books. One I liked, this one I didn't like. I felt that author just needed to touch some grass, I think. To just go outside and touch some grass, because some of her advices just are too far away from the reality, I think. And I just rolled my eyes so much reading this book, so I just don't need it. Then we have a Lithuanian edition of Laini Taylor book, Kaulų dūmų duktė. It is translated from English. It is Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I will be saying goodbye to this one because I have another editions. I have all trilogy. I haven't read it yet. I read the first one, but I haven't read the rest of the book, so yeah, I just don't need this one. Then we have this one, The Goddess Guide by Giselle Scanlon. I bought this one when I was living in England as well, and it is just a lot of, I think it is advice book for young girls, but the way that I see this book now, it's just unnecessary. Definitely girls don't need advices of how to look. They are perfect the way they are, and yeah, it's just, I think, unnecessary book. Then we have book by Sylvia Day, Reflected in You. I read this one. I was infuriated by this book. I didn't like anything about it as far as I remember. I think that I gave that one star or 2 stars, so yeah, it's just leaving my house. Then we have this one. It's also a Norwegian book, Skjebner Skigeland by Holmfrid Rønningen. This one was between those books that I've got for free, and I'm not interested in reading this one. Another few romances that I will be saying goodbye to. Then we have a book by Stephen King, Drømmejegerne. I tried to read this one. I read it, I think until maybe 90% marked, but this one unfortunately wasn't for me. Usually I like reading Stephen King books. I give them between 3 and 5 stars, but this one just didn't click with me, and it's huge. I don't need it anymore. Then we have a classic, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I also tried to read this book. I wasn't interested, and someone else will definitely find it more interesting than I did. Then we have book by Janet Evanovich, Unhaul, or how is it translated? Yes, One for the Money. I tried to read it. I found it on a, I think it is, I found it on charity shop, in charity shop, and the cover was intriguing, the description of the book was intriguing as well, and I tried it, and I DNF'd it, so yeah, I just don't want to have it anymore. Then we have Plystre I mørket by Emma Haley, and original title of this one is Whistle in the Dark. I think I gave this one 3 stars. Don't quote me on that one. It was quite interesting, but not interesting enough for me to keep this one at home. Then we have a paranormal, young adult paranormal book by Tara Hudson, Hereafter. I liked it. I read it. I have read it all. I think I gave this one 2 or 3. I think I gave it 3 stars, so I just don't want to have it anymore. Yet another book that was in that huge box of free books that I've got. It is Norske Prinsesser by Sif Rande Palm. It's a book about Norwegian princesses, and I'm not that interested actually, so I'm pretty sure someone else would like to read this one. So we are coming to the final stretch. We have another classic. This time it is by E.M. Forster, A Room with a View. I also tried to read this book. I turned into audiobook, and I didn't even finish listening for the audiobook. It is a very short one, but it felt like it was dragging for ages, and I just didn't want to waste my time anymore, so I just DNF'd this one. And it's very pretty, Penguin edition, Penguin English Library, so I'm pretty sure someone else will love this one. Then we have a trilogy by Elena Ferrante. One of them is My Brilliant Friend, then The Story of a New Name, and Who Live and Those Who Stay. It is a book about 2 women and their lives from childhood to the adulthood, and I read all of them, but majority of the time I was just once again infuriated by the characters, and I didn't like anything, almost anything about this trilogy. I'm just confused why I read all 3 of those books when I didn't like anything about this story and those families, but I did for some reason, but maybe someone else will enjoy it much more. I think it has a very high rating on Goodreads, so definitely people like these books, but it wasn't me. Then we have another classic. This time it is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. I hated this book. I read it all, but I'm just glad that I finished and I can just move on from it. I didn't like absolutely anything about the story, the writing style. Nothing was clicking with me in this book, so yeah, it will be leaving. Then we have Sizzle by Julie Garwood. It is a thriller. I've got this one also in that huge package of 3 books. I tried to read this one. I gave this one a chance, but I just DNF'd it. I wasn't interested. The thrilling part of this thriller wasn't thrilling enough. It didn't hook me, and I have so many unread books still in my bookshelf, so I just don't want to waste time on the book that I don't like. Then we have Bursdagsgaven by Simon Kidd. I have a Norwegian edition. The original title of this one is The Invention of Wings. It is highly loved on Goodreads. It has a high rating. I read it, I liked it, but not that much. That maybe just my expectations was too high for this book, but I was disappointed in the story. I wanted much more from it, so unfortunately this one will be leaving as well. Then we have a non-fiction book, This is Vitnene by Svetlana Alexievich, and in this one we have a story told by children who survived World War II, and the author just took some interviews with those kids and they told those stories. So we see the World War II from the eyes of the children that survived those days, and it was devastating. I finished all this book and I was sad. Of course you have to be sad majority of the time reading this book, just thinking of what those children went through, what they saw is just devastating. I gave, I think, that one 4 stars, but I won't be picking this book up again. One time was enough for me, so now it's someone else's turn to read it. Then we have another book by Unhaul. It is Det som aldrig sker, Things That Always Happened. I DNF'd this one as well, I think, as far as I remember, and it just wasn't for me, this book, unfortunately. Like I said, Anne Holt and me, we have some love-hate relationships, and unfortunately we're leaning towards more of a hate relationship, so yeah, this one will be leaving as well. Then we have Sivdager med Tirsdagsdamer by Monica Beats, and I think it is a translation. I don't know what is the I think it is a German book, and I tried reading it, but as far as I remember I didn't like anything about the story, so I just DNF'd it. I think it is a romance about some women that are going on to some hotel to lose weight and something like that, but it just wasn't for me. And the last one, it is Drømmehjerter by Cecilia Samartin. It is a very old book, Ghost, Broken Paradise, Ghost Heart. Yeah, and this one as well I tried to read. I read maybe 20 pages and that was enough for me. I just DNF'd it. This story wasn't for me. I don't even remember what this book is about, but I just remember that I didn't finish this book, and I don't even think that someone else would like to have this edition just because it is almost falling apart. But yeah, I just don't need this book anymore. Those are the books that are doomed to be going somewhere else. I'm just waiting to get rid of those and just have a lot of place on my bookshelf for new ones. And now I think I'll just try to see which ones I would like to sell, which ones will be going to the charity shop. We will see, but For now, I think that would be it. So thanks for watching, thanks for sticking around. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, leave a comment if you like, and yeah, I think we will see each other in my next one. Bye.